Good day everyone. Our presentation will be focusing on Region 3 Central Luzon. But first, let me introduce myself to you. I am your first speaker, Kylle Sabiano, and let me take you to the Rice Bowl of the Philippines, Central Luzon.
Let's start with the history and creation of Central Luzon. Central Luzon also has a share of colorful history. The old name of Central Luzon is Lucos in Portuguese or Luzones in Spanish. Luzones is also called to Kapampangan and Tagalog people who live in Manila Bay. But now, the name Central Luzon is coined by an American colonialist after the defeat of the First Philippine Republic against the United States. Malolos, Bulacan was also the place where the first constitution of an independent Philippines was promulgated on January 21, 1899. Tarlac Town became the seat of the Philippine government for 1 month in March 1899, when President Aguinaldo left Bulacan to escape the approaching U.S. forces. Central Luzon contains the largest plain in the country, with its agricultural plains accounting for about 40% of the region's area. It produces most of the country's rice supply, earning itself the nickname Rice Bowl of the Philippines or Rice Granary of the Philippines. Next slide please. The geography of Central Luzon. So Central Luzon is located north of Manila. It is the access region to the region of Ilocos, Cordilleras, and Cagayan Valley. It is the only region that meets both east and west of the country. It is surrounded by Manila Bay to the south, South China Sea to the west, and the Philippine Sea to the east. It has a total land area of 21,470 square kilometers and is home to the 7 provinces, namely Aurora, Bataan, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, and Zambales. Central Luzon is accessible through air, land, and sea. By air, it has now the very busy Clark International Airport, which is connected to a lot of major cities in the world, with direct flights to the key airports in Asia and Middle East. By sea, Subic Bay Freeport Zone is now the hub for cruise tourism, as bigger cruise ships such as Costa Atlantica, Royal Caribbean Cruise, and World Dream are going to scheduled to dock port in Subic Port next year. Not to mention other cruise ships coming. By land, lastly, it is easily accessible by land whether you are coming from the north or south of Luzon. It is connected to expressways such as the North Luzon Expressway or NLEX, Tarlac Pangasinan La Union Expressway or TPLEX, and Subic-Clark Tarlac Expressway or SCTEX. Next slide please. These are the native languages of Central Luzon. More than half of the population in the region speaks Tagalog, which is attributed to the large Tagalog-speaking provinces of Aurora, Bataan, Bulacan, and Nueva Ecija. Kapampangan is the next most widely spoken dialect in the region, used by people from Pampanga and Tarlac. Ilocano that is the third most dominant dialect in the region. It is spoken in the provinces of Zambales, Northern Tarlac, and Northern Nueva Ecija, which are close to the Ilocano-speaking provinces of Pangasinan and Cordilleras. Central Luzon has a very diverse cultural heritage and colorful traditions, owing to the influence of Spanish, American, and Japanese colonizers, as well as the presence of different ethno-linguistic groups such as Itas, Zambals, Kapampangans, Tagalog, Ilocanos, and Pangasinenses. Next slide please. It is true that Central Luzon is envisioned to become the industrial heartland of the Philippines and the Asia Pacific, an international transshipment hub, and a showcase of vibrant and competitive agriculture sector. Central Luzon is the logical destination for investments and leisure. So now, let's move on to the provinces of Central Luzon. So now, let's go to the world where enchantments awaits you. Aurora. The geography of Aurora. Aurora province is located on the east-central side of Luzon Island. It is the northeasternmost province of Central Luzon. It is bordered on the north by the provinces of Isabela and Quirino, on the west by Nueva Ecija and Nueva Vizcaya, on the south by Bulacan and Quezon, and on the east by the Pacific Ocean. The province's main link to the rest of Luzon is through a narrow mountain gravel road that twists through the Sierra Madre mountain range. The road is located between Baler and Bongabon, Nueva Ecija. In order to get to the province of Aurora, there are bus routes that connect Manila to Baler. Buses and jeepneys also link Cabanatuan City to Dingalan, south of Baler. Next slide, please. So Aurora is a province blessed with an abundance of tourist attractions. Its natural attractions include picturesque waterfalls, lush greenery or mountainsides, and panoramic beaches just like the Sierra Madre Mountains and the Cemento Beach Reef in Baler. As you can see on the presentation, these are one of the major attractions found in Aurora. Next slide, please. Another major attractions is the Casiguran Sound that is almost like a lake and a perfect spot for windsurfing. The other one is the Di Tumabo Falls, located at San Luis, Aurora. The falls is surrounded by huge cliffs, covered with green shrubbery and vines. Next slide. Aurora also has its share of historical sites, such as the home and rest house of former Philippine President Manuel L. Quezon, and the province's beautiful Catholic Church and several historical markers, which is the Baler Catholic Church. Next slide. The tourism activities such as surfing, snorkeling, scuba diving, mountain climbing, trekking, and picnics are only some of the activities a tourist can enjoy in Aurora. Next slide. There are various accommodations that a tourist can choose from when going to Aurora. Most of the resorts are located in Baler town, where most tourists stay overnight. Dingalan has some beach resort, but no information is available as of now. Tourists who trek to the rest of the province either go back to Baler for the evening or stay with relatives and hospitable strangers nearby. Camping is also an option to other tourists who prepare it that way. Here are some of the best hotels and resorts in Aurora that is loved by their guests. The Amco Beach Resorts, Angaras Beach House, the Base Inn, and the Mia or Make It Aurora Surf and Sports Resorts. Next slide. Let's move on to the culinary traditions, food, and gastronomy of Aurora. One of them is the Casiguran's Lambanog. It is one of the best tasting virgin coconut distilled wine. Furthermore, one of Aurora's delicacies is the suman or the very famous rice cake of Baler. Another reason why there is a suman festival in that part of Aurora. Next slide. If you're into local arts and culture, you'll find a jam-packed calendar of festivals here in Aurora, including the Aurora Foundation Day, the Suman Festival, Moro Moro Zarzuela, the Sabutan Festival, and their special events which is the Aurora Surfing Cup. Next slide, please. Here is the major cultural and ethnic groups in Aurora. Based on the 2000 census survey, Tagalogs comprise 52.85% of the total province population of 1,073,589. And about less than one-third of the population were Ilocano at 31.43%. Other ethnic groups in the province were Casiguranin at 5.1%, Bicolano at 0.08%, Kankanae at 1.36%, Bisaya at 0.88%, Dumagat at 0.6%, and Cebuano at 0.48%. Another ethnic group are the Agtas, commonly referred to as Negritos. Agtas do belong to the Negrito ethno-linguistic group. There are many Agta tribes scattered over the regions 1 to 5 in the island of Luzon. The Kasiguran Dumagat Agtas can be found on the eastern coast of Aurora Province in central Luzon region. Next slide. So next is the major industries. Agriculture is the primary industry in Aurora, employing approximately half of the population. Major crops include rice, coconut, coffee, bananas, root crops, corn, citrus, peanuts, and abaca. The province also has many poultry and livestock farmers. Forestry is another significant industry, and fishing is also a major industry in the province of Aurora. Next slide. So next, the language and dialect used in Aurora. The province speaks predominantly Tagalog and in some parts Ilocano. The working population is fluent in both the English and Filipino languages. Here are some of the basic and useful phrases that a tourist can learn easily. Next slide. Here are some of facts and trivia about the province. Did you know, before 1979, Aurora was part of the province of Quezon? Aurora was, in fact, named after Aurora Aragon, the wife of President Manuel L. Quezon, the President of the Philippine Commonwealth, after whom the mother province was named. Also, the Sierra Madre mountain range covers a large part of the province of Aurora. In fact, next to the Aurora coastline, it is the place where flora and fauna are most concentrated. Waterfalls, rivers, crystal clear streams of varying sizes are located within, if not adjacent to, the area of the Sierra Madre Mountain. Special interest trips such as mountain climbing, safari, bird watching, ecological studies, or even as simple as picnics could be rolled into one by taking the trails recommended by local nature trekkers in the area. Next slide. And now, our travel for Aurora has come to an end. Let me give you a sample or proposed tour itinerary. This is the Day 1 itinerary. Next slide. And this is the Day 2 itinerary. Then next slide please. The last day of the tour. Next slide please. And now, let's move on to the province of Bataan, a living monument of valor, gallantry, and heroism. The geography of Bataan. Bataan is a province situated in the central Luzon region of the Philippines. Its capital is the city of Balanga, while Maribeles is the largest local government unit in the province. Occupying the entire Bataan Peninsula on Luzon, Bataan is bordered by the provinces of Zambales and Pampanga to the north. The peninsula faces the South China Sea to the west and Subic Bay to the northwest and encloses Manila Bay to the east. Bataan is the smallest province in central Luzon, covering only 1,373 square kilometers. The way to get to the province of Bataan is accessible by land, sea, and air. Take a bus straight to Balanga from Manila, a trip that will take about 3 hours, or board a bus from Olongapo to Bataan, since Bataan is approximately 124 kilometers away from Manila. So now, discover the magic with this amazing historical and cultural region, only an hour by ferry boat across the bay from Manila. Next slide please. Let's move on to the major attractions in the province of Bataan. This province is now proving to be a tourist haven with many exciting places to visit and a lot of interesting things to do. There is so much to offer in Bataan: culture, beauty, history, in spoiled beaches, and a warm hospitality that is truly a Filipino. The first one is the Mount Samat Shrine, and pillar with a huge memorial cross standing at about 311 feet high. On the other side is the Mount Natib, located at Orani, Bataan, a dormant volcano rising to 1,253 meters that provides a commanding view of the surrounding towns. It offers mountain climbers and nature lovers not only the pleasant cool mountain air but also a lush growth including exotic plant species and rare wildlife. Next slide please. Another tourist attraction in Bataan are the churches and historical places such as the Balanga Catholic Church, Belpre, and the Dambana ng Kagitingan in which is loved both by the local and foreign tourists because of its history and purpose. Next slide please. So these are the tourism activities offered in Bataan Province. First one is the history tour by the reason that Bataan is rich in historical places and experiences. Seconds are the water sports such as jet ski, windsurf at Bagak near the white sandy beaches of Montemar, Sun Moon, Pajardos, and Morning Breeze Beach Resort. Lastly is the mountain climbing in Mount Natib at Orani, Bataan. Next slide please. Tourists can choose from various accommodations Bataan has to offer. With its great experience, there are resorts, luxury hotels, cheap hotels, hotels with spa, and of course, hotels that are good for families. Next slide please. It is all about the culinary traditions, food and gastronomy in Bataan. Their famous delicacies are the ukoy-ukoy and ginataang laing. Ukoy-ukoy is the Filipino version of shrimp fritters. This dish can be eaten as a snack or an appetizer, while the ginataang laing is taro leaves cooked in coconut milk plus other flavorsome ingredients and seasonings. Next slide. So Bataan is a province that is rich of different cultures, traditions, and festivals celebrated every year. Some of them are the tradition of doing sinakulo, the Bataan Day celebration, the Bangga Festival, and the Pagbubunyi Festival that is only celebrated in Bataan Province itself. Next slide po. So the major cultural and ethnic groups in Bataan, as you can see on the picture, it is one of the first inhabitants of the Bataan Peninsula. They are the Aita Magbeken people, who are one of the first Negrito ancestors of present-day Filipinos. Later on, Tagalog communities from southern Luzon migrated to parts of Bataan, and the Aita Magbeken migrated towards the mountain areas of Bataan by the end of the 16th century. Next slide. These are the Bataan major industries. So Bataan is known for cattle and carabao fattening, hog raising, and poultry industry, especially broilers and ducks and egg production are some of the promising livelihood programs in the province. Even though Bataan remains basically an agricultural province in spite of the rapid industrialization during the last decade. Next slide. So next are the language and dialect used in Bataan. The province's main language is Tagalog, followed by Pampango o Ilocano, while English is used mostly as the medium of transaction in business. Also, here are some of the useful phrases that a tourist can learn easily when communicating to the people of Bataan. Next slide. Here are some of Bataan's travel and interesting trivia. About travel trivia, Bataan top tourist spots are Shrine of Balor, Atmat Samat, Las Casas Filipinas de Acuzar, Sisiman Bay, Pawikan Conservation Center, Balanga Wetland, and Nature Park, Tarak Ridge. Also another interesting facts, did you know that Bataan is a location of bulk power generation where most of the power generated is sent to the Luzon grid? Since most power plants in Bataan rely on fossil fuels like oil and coal, but renewable energy sources, primarily solar power, form part of the total generation. Next slide. So now, our travel for Bataan has come to an end. So let me give you a sample or proposed tour itinerary for your future 2 days getaway in the beautiful province of Bataan. Here it is, the 2 days tour itinerary. That's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone. Before I get started in the presentation, I'd like to quickly introduce myself and my goals in this presentation. I am Loubert Samson from Group 3, and today I am here to talk to you about Zambales and Bulacan, which are two of the 7 provinces in Central Luzon. I know that many of you have traveled in Zambales and Bulacan, but I can guarantee that you only know a little about these places. And this presentation will give you the information that you need to know these places. That is all. We can now start the presentation. First, let's talk about Bulacan. Bulacan is located in the southern section of Central Luzon. The province has a generally flat terrain but mountainous near its boundaries with Nueva Ecija, Aurora, Quezon, and Rizal. How to get to Bulacan? All buses bound for the northern parts of Luzon pass through Bulacan. Malolos is a mere 30-minute ride from Manila. Baliwag transit buses leave Cubao every half hour for Baliwag and Hagonoy. Let's now turn to its major attractions. First attraction is the Tumutulu Falls. It is located in Doña Remedios, Bulacan in Barangay Bayabas. Another attraction is Berdivia Falls, which is also located at Doña Remedios, Bulacan in Barangay Talbak. Biak na Bato Nature Park is also an attraction in Bulacan. It is located near the municipality of San Miguel de Mayubo. It provides a unique eco-adventure steeped in history. Barashoan Church, which is located at Malolos, Bulacan. It is known as the Cradle Democracy in the East and is the most important religious building in the Philippines. The next attraction is Pulilan Butterfly. It is a butterfly sanctuary where they show a butterfly's fascinating life cycle. Lastly is the Hiyas ng Bulacan Museum. It is located at Malolos, Bulacan. It is a house of valuable relics, articles, documents, and handicrafts. Now let's move on to tourism activities. Here are the list of tourism activities in Bulacan. First is Lakbay Kasaysayan. It is a historical tour experience for the youth to remember and appreciate the beginnings of Philippine history and constantly relive true Filipino values. Next is Lakbay Kongreso. It is a walk tour of the site of the first constitutional convention that occurred in the historic town of Malolos. Side tour is ensaymada and inipit making. Next is Lakbay Kagitingan. It is a tour of different battle sites of the Philippine Revolution in Bulacan. Side tour is pottery making. Next is Lakbay Republika. It is a tour of the historic sites of the 3 republics. Side tour is pastillas and binasa making. Next is Lakbay Kalikasan. Bulacan is close to the pristine mountains of Sierra Madre that extends its natural beauty to its eastern towns. Next is Pasyal Tanawin. It is a day tour of the NPC Water Reserve in Norzagaray. Next is Lakbay Cueva. It is a 3-day eco tour in Biak na Bato for nature lovers. Next is Akyat Bundok. It is a 3-day tour experience on top of Sierra Madre Mountain. Next is Baybay Ilog, a 3-day river tour on the coastal areas of Bulacan. Next is Lakbay Kalinangan. Bulacan is a heaven of colorful festivals, religious traditions, and artistic excellence. Its cultural heritage provides tourists a meaningful and exciting experience of the Bulacan way of life. Next is Lakbay Simbahan. It is a Holy Week tour on the religious sites in Bulacan. Next is Lakbay Fiesta. It is a seasonal day tour experience of the exciting festas in Bulacan. And lastly, Lakbay Kaluto, a culinary tour of the various cuisines and delicacies in Bulacan. Now let's talk about the accommodations in Bulacan. There are 30 hotels in Bulacan. Some of the best hotels in Bulacan near Philippine Arena include Oyo 478, Amaro Resort, Oyo 477 Carino Resort, and Sofitel Rooms, Clearwater Park Resort, Aerostop Hotel and Restaurant, DJ Paradise Hotel, Pacific Waves Resort, Nature Care Resort and Farm, Sir Nico Guest House and Resort, and lastly, Hotel Masfino. Let's now go to the culinary traditions in Bulacan. I am currently residing here in Bulacan, and one of the culinary tradition is puto bumbong. You will usually see this kind of food even in small stores in Bulacan, same as suman, yema, and merang. Now let's jump to festivals and special events. The first festival is Ubando Fertility. It is celebrated every May in Ubando, Bulacan. They dressed up in traditional costumes and they sing and dance to honor and beseech the three patron saints. Those saints are San Pascual, Santa Clara, and Nuestra Señora de Salambao. The next festival is Santo Niño. It is celebrated every January's last week. It is celebrated to give glory to Batang Jesus. And lastly, the Feast of the Holy Cross of Wawa, a festival held on the first Sunday of July, observed in honor of the Holy Cross of Wawa. It is said that it saved the life of an old woman who was drowning. Now let's move on to the ethnic groups in Bulacan. Bulacan is one of the places in the Philippines where ethnic groups still exist. One ethnic group is the Dumagat tribe. An estimate of 745 families of this indigenous group reside in the towns of Norzagaray, San Jose del Monte, and Doña Remedios Trinidad or DRT. Now let's move on to major industries. Bulacan is veering away from being an agricultural area and becoming an industrialized one. Its proximity to Manila gives it the advantage of being a favored site of industrial establishments, including leather tanning, cement bag making, ceramic textiles, food processing, shoemaking, and many others. The majority of the rural areas, however, are still dependent on agricultural for their livelihood. Rice is the principal crop, followed by corn, vegetables, and fruits. There are 5 languages in Bulacan: Tagalog, Waray, Ilocano, Bicolano, and Kapampangan. However, majority of the people in Bulacan is fluent in Tagalog. Now let's move on to the interesting trivias in Bulacan. Bulacan was one of the 8 provinces which rallied behind the Katipunan's call for an all-out insurrection against the Spanish tyranny in the late 19th century. Biak na Bato is a huge split boulder which has been the mountain hideout of the revolutionary forces of the Philippines during the Spanish regime and the place where the Malolos Constitution was signed by General Emilio Aguinaldo and Pedro Paterno. Bulacan is noted as the land of heroes, beautiful women, progressive cooperatives, small and medium-scale industries. Now, here is the proposed tour itineraries in Bulacan. You can pause the video if you want to read it. Now let us turn to Zambales. Zambales is the second largest province in Central Luzon. It is located on the northeastern part of Central Luzon. It is also consisted of lowland, and the eastern part of the province is flanked by a series of mountain range containing limitless deposits of minerals. It is also consisted of lowland, and the eastern part of the province is flanked by a series of mountain ranges containing limitless deposits of minerals. Now let us move on to the major attractions of Zambales. The first attraction of Zambales is Snake Island, which is located at Subic. Second is Hermana Mayor Island, that is located at Santa Cruz. Balon Falls at Subic. Grotto of Our Lady of Pardon in Olongapo. Botolan Church at Botolan. Subic Bay Freefort Zone. And lastly, Marikit Park at Olongapo. Now let us turn to the tourism activities in Zambales. Here are the list of the different tourism activities in Zambales. First is scuba diving in San Salvador Island. Next is scuba diving in Olongapo City. scuba diving in San Antonio, trekking jungle tour, trekking Mount Pinatubo at San Marcelino, trekking Mount Banban at San Antonio, trekking Santo Niño Cave at Candelaria, trekking Balok-Balok Cave at Santa Cruz, trekking Sagrada Familia Cave at Santa Cruz, and lastly is surfing. Now let us move on to the accommodations in Zambales. Here are the list of the different accommodations in Zambales. Now let us turn to culinary traditions. Bagnet. It is prepared by the locals of San Felipe. This is the Zambales version of chicharon. Ginipang of Santa Cruz. It is a native delicacy of the northernmost town of Zambales. Lastly is linga, which is made in Botolan. It is known as the sesame candies. Moving on, here are the festivals and special events in Zambales. Painawen Duyan Festival. It is held every April 25. May 1 in Iba, Zambales. Sibit-Sibit Summer Festival. It is held every 4th week of April in Olongapo City. Dinamulag Mango Festival. It is held in Iba, Zambales every April. Now let us talk about the major cultural or ethnic groups in Zambales. The Tagalogs, the Ilocanos, the Sambal, the Kapampangans, and the Pangasinans today constitute the 5 largest ethnic groups in Zambales. These identities may and do, however, overlap with one another due to intermarriage and other factors. Major industries. Mining has recently been booming in Zambales, where there is an abundant deposit of nickel and other materials. Zambales is basically an agricultural province. The chief products are rice, corn, vegetables, and root crops. Major industries include farming, fishing, and mining. Zambales have 4 languages: Tagalog, Ilocano, Zambal, and English. But most of the people in Zambales speaks Tagalog. There are interesting trivias in Zambales, and here are the list. Zambales is in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the province that has the sweetest and most sumptuous mangoes. The beaches in Zambales are one of the nearest from Manila. Here are the top tourist spots in Zambales: Subic Bay Freeport Zone, Olongapo, Mount Pinatubo, Crater Lake, Crystal Beach, Anawangin Cove, Nagsasa Cove, Mag-Alawa Island, and Putipot Island. Here is an example of a proposed tour itinerary in Zambales. That is all. Thank you for listening.
Good day, I am Rachel D. Rodriguez and I will be discussing 3 over 7 provinces in Central Luzon, and these are Tarlac, Nueva Ecija, and Pampanga.
Tarlac. For the geography, Tarlac has a total land area of 3,053 square kilometers. It is located in the middle of Center Plains, landlocked by 4 provinces: Pangasinan in the north, Nueva Ecija in the east, Pampanga in the south, and Zambales in the west. Tarlac is divided into 3 congressional districts with 17 towns and 1 city, which total of 510 barangays. To get into Tarlac, all buses coming from the Metro Manila going to the Ilocos region and Baguio pass through Tarlac. For the major attractions, Luisita Golf Course. It is located at Hacienda Luisita. It is one of the finest 18-hole par 72 championship courses in the country. Maria Clara Museum in Camiling, Tarlac. Preserved and displayed in this museum are the priceless mementos of Leonora Rivera. Mount Pinatubo, made famous by its catastrophic eruption in 1991, now a source of travel and study among tourists and travelers visiting Central Luzon. Camiling Church in Camiling, Tarlac. Its convent was the place of death of General Pedro Pedroche and his men in the hands of General Francisco Macabalos and his revolutionary troops upon the order of General Antonio Luna on charges of rebellion. Tarlac Museum in Tarlac, Tarlac. It has an extensive collection of official documents of the different revolutionary personalities like the letters of Francisco Macabulos and General Severiano, Aquino. Aquino Center in Tarlac, Tarlac. The Aquino Center offers modern and conference facilities, spacious function room, convention hall, library containing books and memorabilia of former President Corazon Aquino and the late Senator and Patriot Benigno Aquino Jr. For the tourism activities, Tarlac is a hiking destination in the province and considered as the most scenic mountain. Tourists can trek to the crater of world-famous Mount Pinatubo with spectacular views, towering Lahar Canyons, cool mountain springs, cascading waterfalls, make the trip up the volcano an experience to remember. For the accommodations, La Maharica Hotel, it ranges from 1,470 to 4,300 per night with breakfast. For an affordable boutique hotel, head to La Maharica Hotel. San Isidro Farmhouse, rate starts at 600 per night for 2 persons. If you are on tight budget, stay at San Isidro Farmhouse. Culinary traditions, food and gastronomy, Pansit Palabok is popular for the tourists and locals. Festivals and special events. Belenismo sa Tarlac. Tarlac is also known as Belen capital of the Philippines. It holds the annual Belenisimo sa Tarlac. Mala Tarlac Festival, it takes its name from the variety of grass that is native to the Luzon area. Aita Forest Food Festival, it highlights the traditional food of Tarlac. Major cultural or ethnic groups, the Aita, Agta, or Damagat are collective terms for several Filipino indigenous peoples who live in the various parts of the island of Luzon in the Philippines. For the major industries, principal crops of Tarlac are rice and sugarcane. Other major crops are corn and coconut, vegetables such as eggplant, garlic, and onion, and for fruit trees like mango, banana, and calamansi. Tarlac has its own rice and corn mills as well as sawmills and logging outfits. It has 3 sugar centrals. Other firms service agricultural needs such as fertilizer. For the language dialect, it was shown in the table some examples of basic greetings and useful phrases in Tarlac. Ilocano is spoken by half of the population, followed by Pampango, spoken by 41%. Everybody understands the Tagalog language. For the travel and interesting trivia, Tarlac is often considered a stopover destination for most travelers headed north. Tarlac is the home province of former Philippine President Corazon C. Aquino and her husband Benigno Aquino. During the Philippine Revolution in 1896, Tarlac was one of the 8 provinces to rise in arms against Spain. For the proposed tour itineraries, we created an itinerary that is good for a whole day tour. Pampanga. For the geography, Pampanga has 2,180 square kilometers. It is located in the heart of Central Luzon. The province is comprised mainly of flatlands with some portions rolling, especially in the Mount Pinatubo area in the northwest. Pampanga is composed of 20 municipalities in 2 cities with a total of 540 barangays and subdivided into 4 political districts. We also stated here how to get into San Fernando, Pampanga from Manila. For the major attractions, Holy Rosary Cathedral, which can be found in Angeles City, Pampanga. The Holy Rosary Church was constructed from 1877 to 1896 by the townspeople of Angeles by forced labor system known as Polos y Servicios, imposed by the Spanish colonial government. San Guillermo Parish Church in Bacolor, Pampanga. It is one of the oldest and largest churches in Pampanga. The church was restored by Father Manuel Diaz in 1897. In spite of the 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo, which have buried the church on October 1, 1995. Masses are still held every Sunday morning. Candaba Swamp and Wild Duck Sanctuary in Candaba, Pampanga. The bird sanctuary of Candaba is paradise waiting to be discovered hopefully by the bird watchers and not by the bird hunters. The best time to visit the swamp is from October to January when these wintering birds make Candaba their home during harsh temperatures. Mount Arayat in Arayat, Pampanga, a dormant volcano with an area of 3,715.28 hectares. Legend says it is the home of the Mariang Sinukwang, a fairy who protects the mountain's vegetation and wildlife. At the foot of the mountain, you can find Mount Arayat National Park, a picnic site with lush foliage, natural waterfalls, 2 swimming pools, and a countless variety of unique and interesting flora and fauna. Clark Special Economic Zone. It is the home of popular Fontana and Mimosa Leisure Park, Mimosa Casino duty-free shops, and world-class golf courses. It is best for ecotour and nature trip to Arayat National Park. Archdiocesan Museum and Archives in City of San Fernando. It houses antiques and exquisite work of art depicting Pampanga's rich cultural heritage. For the tourism activities, Pampanga offers a variety of tourism activities that we surely enjoy by the tourists. These are Clark Special Economic Zone, which I mentioned earlier, Mount Pinatubo Sky Tour, Angeles City Flying Club, Angeles City Four-Wheelers Club, Clark Arayat Eco Tour, and Sky Ranch Pampanga. For the culinary traditions, food gastronomy. Here are some famous food in Pampanga for the locals and tourists. Bulang-lang Kapampangan is a healthy soup perfect for any fried dishes to liven up your meal. Pastillas de leche and pastillas de mocha. For the festivals and special events, Kutud Lenten Rites is a reenactment of Christ's Passion and Suffering observed every Lenten season at Kutud, San Pedro, and San Fernando, Pampanga. Giant Lantern Festival celebrated every days before Christmas. Through the years, different provinces in Pampanga showcase their different designs and craft to compete with each other. Hot Air Balloon Festival. This is an annual exhibition of hot air balloons, skydiving, microlight demonstration, small planes, flybys, and fly-ins by the country's largest aviation sport event today. Pampanga Day. Residents of Pampanga celebrate this day as their Foundation Day, showcasing Kapampangan's culture, traditions, events, activities, and other social, civic, and economic-related events. For the major cultural or ethnic groups, the Kapampangan people, Pampangueños or Pampangos, are the 6th largest ethno-linguistic group in the Philippines, numbering about 2,784,526 in 2010. For major industries, farming and fishing are the main industries. Rice and sugarcane are the major crops. Also the banana, mango, and eggplant. The rivers and fish ponds produces fish, shrimps, and the crabs. For the language dialect, it is shown in the table some examples of basic greetings and useful phrases in Pampanga. Kapampangan, English, and Tagalog are spoken and understood anywhere in the province. Interesting trivia. It is the first province in the Philippines created by the Spaniards in the year 1571. Back then, the area consisted of Bataan, Bulacan, Tarlac, Nueva Ecija, Zambales, and Pangasinan. The province is represented in the Philippine flag. During the American period, Clark Air Base, one of the largest bases outside the continental United States, was erected in northern Pampanga. Lastly, for the proposed tour itineraries, we created San Fernando Travel Guide with a list of different attractions you can visit here in Pampanga. Ecija. For the geography, Nueva Ecija is the largest province in central Luzon. Its terrain begins with the southwestern marshes near the Pampanga border. The province is divided into 4 congressional districts, which consist of 28 municipalities and 4 cities. There are about 233,519 hectares of the province is forest land, of which 22% is residual forest, 1.42% is mossy forest, and 31% are open lands. We are also stated here how to get into Nueva Ecija. Next slide. For the major attractions, we have listed some. General Luna Statue and Marker, which can be found in Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija. It is located in plaza in front of the cathedral on the exact spot where the brave general was assassinated. Triang Gala House. It was built during the early Commonwealth period. Next is Minalongo National Park. It features the breathtaking view of the narrow but deep Penaranda River. Gabaldon Falls. It is a 10-foot fall surrounded by huge rock formations and rippling ice-cold water. Pantabangan Dam. It was built during 1974 along with the Pampanga River to serve as a reinforcement against flood and provide irrigation. Pantabangan Dam. It is built in 1974 along the Pampanga River to serve as reinforcement against flood and provide irrigation, additional electricity in the entire Luzon Island. Pantabangan Dam is one of the most visited tourist spots in the province. Next is Gapan. The first Augustinian mission in lowland Nueva Ecija was founded in Gapan in 1595. Next, for the tourism activities, tourists can try farm tours, hiking trails, nature parks for trekkers to visit. The reserve has several picnic spots, river raft rides, hiking trails along its limestone walls, and caves open to public exploration. More adventurous tourists can even try out the zip line if they are looking for thrilling activity. For the accommodation, most of Nueva Ecija's best hotel and restaurants can be found in Cabanatuan City. Those people who are looking for mid-range accommodation can try Microtel by Windham. If you are looking for the best for business trips or family vacation, you can also try the Harvest Hotel. For the culinary tradition, food and gastronomy, Sumansalia and Guro-Guro was originated in Nueva Ecija and it's popular for both locals and tourists. For the festivals and special events, Pandawan Festival was held every last week of April in Pantabangan, Nueva Ecija because Pantabangan is one of the biggest fish-producing towns in Asia. Pastores Festival is celebrated in honor of the miraculous patron saint Nuestra Señora de la Virgen Divina Pastora. Next is Taong Putik, celebrated every June 24. Taong Putik is originated from a unique practice of the devotees of Saint John the Baptist in Ibibiklat, Aliaga, Nueva Ecija. For the major or cultural ethnic groups, the Bugkalot ethnic community or Ilonggo tribe is a Philippine indigenous group that is found in the provinces of Nueva Ecija, Nueva Vizcaya, Quirino, and Aurora. Many of them live in the eastern central part of the Caraballo and Sierra Madre mountain range, and by the Conwap, Bua, and Tubo rivers. For the major industries, Nueva Ecija is also known as the Rice Bowl of the Philippines. This province is one of the top producers of the agricultural goods in the country. Its principal crops are rice, corn, and onion, also mango, banana, eggplant, and garlic. Fish ponds are unevenly distributed throughout the province. Its largest concentrations are in San Antonio, Santa Rosa, and Quiapo. You can also find mineral deposits such as copper and manganese in some areas here in Nueva Ecija. The upper reaches, the Karangalan and Palyan, are said to contain gold. For the language dialect, Tagalog is predominantly spoken by the Novo Ecijanos, comprising 67.7%, followed by the Ilocano dialect at 29.93%. Other dialects are Pampango, Pangasinan, Bicol, and Ilonggo. For the travel and interesting trivia, Nueva Ecija is the largest province of Central Luzon in terms of land. It was named after Ecija, an old city in Seville, Spain. Seville is part of the Andalusia region. The name was given by Governor General Fausto Cruzat, a former Spanish Governor General of the Philippines during the Spanish occupation. Lastly, for the proposed tour itineraries, we have made here a 3-day tour plan good for a group of 4 people with the estimated expenses per day.